All right. Hey, Air Force veteran Matt Butler, great to have you back on the show. I think it's been 3 or 4 years at least since we had you on the show back when you were heavily into promoting your outdoor game rollers. I wanted to bring you back on the show because you got a great new product coming out here soon that's on Kickstarter. It's the Tally Tumbler, which is a great we'll get into more of the details, but a cool way to keep score when you're playing all those outdoor games. And believe me, that's very important because we've been in many arguments with good friends playing these outdoor games that we play. So trying to keep score in the midst of other things going on and lots of chaos is a big deal, which I'm sure is why you invented it. But anyways, before we get into all that, take us back as a reminder. Tell us what you did when you were in the Air Force.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. So I was in the Air Force 20 years, and I flew on a reconnaissance aircraft called Joint Stars for the majority of my time. Did a lot of deployments, spent a lot of time overseas, a lot of overseas locations, Middle East primarily, but a little bit of Asia as well, and that type of AOR. Did some staff tours, worked at the Pentagon, worked at Air Combat Command, so had a great time. And then I now reside in the Panhandle of Florida, in Destin, Florida right now, so by Eglin Air Force Base and Hurlburt Field. And in regards to rollers, which it's an outdoor game, it's a fusion of different traditional outdoor games that have been on the market for a long time, like bocce ball, bowling, and horseshoes. It's a product I created in my garage about 10 years ago, and saw a slight increase in sales and kept selling it. Went to a bunch of arts and craft fairs and shows. Kind of interesting just because we had the demographics there were people selling candles and other things, and you got this guy, I'm coming in, with an outdoor game, but it did really well. And so I just kind of evaluated the market and saw that there was a need for it, and just kept selling. And so when I transitioned out of the military, I pretty much just went all in on it. I did about 8 trade shows as soon as I got out. Went to a bunch of different camping and toy and game fairs and things like that. And we've got it in probably about 1,000 different retailers. So it's been a fun journey so far, and that's what I've been doing the past couple of years since I got out of the Air Force.
That's awesome. Now, you are a member of the Check of the Month Club since you're able to retire, but you actually have been able to do your inventing and product development, product marketing, pretty much gone all in with entrepreneurship since you retired.
Yep, definitely 100%. And then one thing which I've had an honor so far to been able to do is I also teach Boots to Business for transitioning veterans. I'm actually a graduate. I went to that program 2 times before, and then I got asked to teach, and I did that through the Veteran Business Outreach Center and the Institute of Veterans for Military Families. So when I have time and when there's availability, I also teach that. So it's been very rewarding to be able to give back my experiences and teach that to folks that are transitioning out of the military.
Now, the Boots to Business program, for those of you that haven't heard of it, that's part of one of the SBA programs, right?
Yes, correct. There's kind of a 3-tier program for TAP, or Transition Assistance Program. One is they kind of tier it into, are you looking to find another job? And if you are, let's help you with your resume. If you're looking to go back to school and want to utilize your GI Bill, going that route and prepare you for school. Or if you're looking from owning a business and getting to become an entrepreneur, there's some avenues for that approach. They're kind of looking at different avenues depending on which direction the person transitioning out is looking to go.
Awesome. Talk through a little bit of the process that you learned when you invented your rollers game. Basically, you invented it, and you invented it, and then you got it manufactured, basically in product development, and then some of the aspects of marketing and sales, and what some of your highs and lows were in that experience.
Oh man, there's so many highs and lows when it comes to this business, and that's what's always fun to talk to other product developers and people that have products on the market, because there's always a high and then there's always a low that's going to come at some point. You just don't know when and where, and you try and eliminate as much as you can those lows. So it's always great to trade those stories with other people. On a lot of the military bases, they have woodworking facilities. And when I was overseas in Italy, I kind of took advantage. I had some free time and started learning about woodworking and tooling. And then on one of my deployments, I just conceived the concept of a game. When I got back from the deployment, you know, you have that R&R, rest and recuperation time. That's when I thought, as I organized getting back from the deployment, I created a prototype for the game. And that's when I showed it to some friends and family. And all of them said, you know, great game, we love it, you know, and I wanted to move beyond that, where friends and family were out of the equation, because the most important part when it comes to a service or a business that you have or a product is, will somebody that might not be associated with you actually give you the credit card or fork over money to pay you for the product? I mean, that's what you really want.
Yeah.
That was why earlier I mentioned going to an arts and craft fair and show, because I wanted to see if people would actually pay for this product. I had about 50 of them at the time, and I sold out of them on the first day. So then that's when that
Oh,
you know, the light bulb idea popped on and said I might have something here. And that's when I started making a bunch of phone calls in regards to who does wood manufacturing and how does this mass manufacturing process work. And I think that's with anyone out there that's in product development, you know, you have an idea, it's best to prototype it and conceptually make sure that it makes sense. You know, start looking along the road of what are the costs, how am I going to package it, and all of those things, because what, you know, in the end, you have to come up with, what do you want to sell it to the customer for, and what's it manufactured, what's your cost of goods, you know, the difference between that, the margin, that's what you retain. And so you just really have to evaluate, is there room for a business within that,
yeah.
you know?
And you're
So
basically starting from scratch. I mean, you'd never done anything like this before.
nothing at all. Yeah, exact first time. And like I said, each item along the way has been a journey. You know, the packaging, you know, how do you go get a UPC code? I had no idea how to do that. I had to research how to get a UPC code, and how do I set up a business. Even setting up a business, I didn't really know. So I would watch YouTube videos. I'm in Florida, so I did a limited liability company in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And they were great too. I mean, the state has great the business chamber here locally. So that's a great place to connect with other people. If you need, say, for example, insurance or legal or anything like that, or starting a business, take
Mm-hmm.
a look at your chamber. They've got some great resources there.
Yeah. Chamber, SBA. Uh,
SBA, yep.
and then there's a whole host of other uh, specialty programs for veterans and military spouses. You mentioned the IVMF, which is up there at Syracuse University Institute for Veterans and Military Families. I've had them on the show several times, doing great things. There's really an unlimited supply of help out there. You as a veteran or somebody that's still in the military, you just need to go ask. You need to go find it. You need to tell them you need help, because no one's really going to come knocking on your door and say, "Hey, let me help you."
Right,
You know what
right.
you're doing. So, and you know, a lot of veterans fall into that trap. We just don't go ask for help, and we don't realize there's folks like you and a whole bunch of other folks out there that are way ahead, way down the runway from us that can offer a lot of help and assistance. And um, so the outdoor game rollers is still going on. You've been selling the rollers for how many years now? It's several years, right?
It's been about 7 years I've been selling. Yeah.
Kidding, yeah, and still going strong. And we were discussing before I hit the record button. Your biggest problem in the last few years has just been running out of inventory, which is a great problem to have for a
It,
product.
it, yeah, it definitely is. So one of the challenges, inventory management, and what's different about rollers is it's very seasonal, meaning the months of January, February are very, very low. It starts to increase in March, and then our pinnacle is reached in June, July. And then it starts to go back down in October and September. September, October, really slow months again until the holidays. And so I have a hard time figuring out what is the projection going to be when we get to that next, you know, sales trajectory and pinnacle, and then we go back down and back up. And as we were chatting before, is going into 2020 before COVID, I doubled down on my inventory, and thinking I might have too much inventory going into COVID because things would be or starting to get shut down. And it did the opposite. The social distancing actually increased my sales because friends and family and neighbors were looking to do things together. I mean, still social distance, but together as a family in the backyard. And our sales went through the roof. I mean, we did a couple 100% more than normal and sold out right in our, highest selling season in July and August. And I couldn't get enough inventory manufactured in time. So it was a great year. But, I think the body, doesn't know the difference between if you have too much inventory, you're stressed out and collecting dust on your inventory. And if you don't have enough inventory, you're sold out and you want more inventory, but you're still stressed out either way. So I don't know how to find that fine balance between that. That's why I say inventory management, specifically because of the up and down sales cycle, makes it more challenging. But let's say, for example, I was selling a pillow or a toothbrush or something that we kind of use day to day, or a razor. You can see a trajectory. You might get it bumped up in the holidays because of, Christmas gifts and such, but it doesn't make a difference if it's January or July. You still have kind of a steady product sell-through rate, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to start talking about your Tally Tumbler, which is the next thing you got coming out here soon. So hold on. All right. Back talking with Air Force veteran Matt Butler, inventor of the Rollers, which is an outdoor game. Real good info on your experience with inventing your first product and taking it to market. And not many people get it right on the first product like you did. So it's an incredible story. You got a new product coming out, the Tally Tumbler, and you've got it on Kickstarter. And actually, just yesterday, you reached your full funding limit, or whatever, however that works on Kickstarter. You put in a certain amount, and when you hit that, you're going to get the money, right?
Exactly. So there's a couple crowdfunding platforms that are out there. Kickstarter is the most well-known platform out there. There's another one called Indiegogo. So we decided, I've got a partner in this first time working with a partner. As we discussed rollers, that's just solely myself, also my wife as well. But Tally Tumbler was a product that I wanted to work with somebody else through this. And we decided, why not give the crowdfunding a try? And how crowdfunding works is you are pre-ordering a product and you are getting it at a discount. If you're the customer, you're getting it at a discount, but you're not going to get the product until a later point. And so for me as a manufacturer, that gives me the financial resources to move forward with getting molds created or getting product created or packaging and all of that. And then I have a timeline to ship the product out to the customer based off of that.
Yeah.
And so we created a page on there that explains our journey and what we're doing in our product. And basically the product that we create is the product name is called Tally Tumbler. And it's a stainless steel tumbler. And I know everyone probably has a stainless steel tumbler. They have a Yeti, or they have a, what's the one for Walmart? Arctic is, the other brand. So this is a tumbler, very similar, except that, yeah. And so the difference is, if you can imagine around the circumference of the tumbler are rings, and these rings click into place for keeping score. That's where the tally in the name comes in. You're tallying the score together. And we've got different versions of these tumblers. There's one for golf for keeping score for your golf game. We have one for tennis, and then we have one that's a generic one for outdoor games. And that was a product that came up because due to rollers and being involved in outdoor games, I saw a lot of people wondering what the score is. They might have had some drinks. They wanted some easy, convenient way to keep track of their score besides just having an app. There's a lot of apps that are out there, and hey, that's fine too. But we just took kind of a mashup of just a tumbler and keeping score of something versus having a separate scorekeeper. It's kind of like rollers, because rollers is a mashup of bocce ball, bowling, and horseshoes. They're just combining things that have been on the market for a while and just put in a new direction.
Yeah. I saw that and I totally get it, because we've got a lot of friends that love to play games, and when the weather's good, we're playing outdoor games, cornhole and washers and everything else. And the issue is, especially if there's drinking involved, or if there's a lot going on around you,
Right,
there's a lot of
right.
distraction, kids are around, whatever, you forget what the score is, and then it can turn into an argument really easily. So keeping good score, is very, very important, especially when you're playing with competitive people. I mean, if you got a lot at stake at a yard game, you got to pay attention to that score.
We're
So
trying to we're trying to eliminate those arguments. Yeah, definitely.
um, and so how did you go about? Did the idea just pop in your head one day, or did it just kind of was a slow rise?
It's definitely a slow rise. So as I retired from the military, got a chance to play a little bit more golf. And so at the same point, there's been times when I was in the golf cart and my scorecard flew away, or I didn't want to use a scorecard, but I always had a beverage in hand for the most part. And I thought right in front of the golf cart, there are always two spots for, or maybe four, for having a drink. And I thought that would be very simple to just reach forward and click into place whatever your score is to keep up to date.
Uh-huh.
That was one idea. And then the same thing that you just mentioned is just keeping the game, up to date on the score. A lot of times people are trying to keep it in their mind, and then they're trying to hold a conversation and be socially engaged with other people. Kids are running around, and then you're playing a game of cornhole or rollers or bocce ball, and before you know it, you said, "What was the score again? You were 14, you were 6, no, it was 15, 2." And so that was just trying to keep everything straightforward.
Wow.
And
So the one for golf, like it just keeps the score for your score, right? You keep track of your score, and if
yep.
the other guy in the golf cart with these guys want his, then he's using it on his tumbler. So, um, yeah, that's I think you got something here. I really do. That's an awesome idea.
Well, and then that was the thing with Kickstarter too, is what wanted to give that a try is because it's market validation as well, right? Because I put it out, make a page, and there's a video on it. It shows the journey of the different prototypes that I've made, and people can see that. Um, and then I want to make sure that people actually want this product, because what if I went and made 5,000 of these products and then, I run into inventory management, meaning nobody's buying them. So this helped me validate that there's a need and a want in the market for the Tally Tumbler. And so, like you said, yesterday is when we finally received that market validation, where we put a goal of $10,000, and we reached that. And we still have 8 more days to go in the campaign. And so we're still raising additional funds for the campaign. But at least I know that I'm on to something by getting that market validation and reaching the campaign goal.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the details of Kickstarter? Because I've had a little bit of experience with Kickstarter, but it's not like you just throw a couple pictures on Kickstarter.
Right.
I mean, you really have to put a lot of quality effort into your Kickstarter campaign.
Oh yeah. I mean, you want to talk about why you bringing the product to market. What was the pain point? What's your solution? The video is really key to helping explain all of those things. Why are you buying this product? How is it different from what else is out there? And that's the things that we talked about through the page. So I tried to think about psychologically, if you opened up the page, how would you go through explaining to somebody about the product? What's the problem? What's the solution? Here's our journey. Here's why you should buy it. Here's when you're going to get the product. And so there's that. But I mean, you have to have really clean graphics. You have to have a great video. So that takes a lot of time. It's not something you can just slap up there with a dark background, or, the sunset or the light is just not shining properly. I mean, you have to get things professionally done. That's real important to it, to make it just clean for people to come across.
Yeah.
And again, it's friends and family that are on there, but you're getting this is going out to anybody that's on there with Kickstarter, anyone that has backed a prior campaign for Kickstarter. They're getting a newsletter, and a lot of times your product is going to be in there. And luckily, if you are, ours was, and then that's when other people are seeing it. And you don't want to get them to the page and then you just have these really unclean, not great looking pictures. That kind of just takes away from the product and the company itself.
Mm-hmm. There are actually companies that you can hire that will do your Kickstarter campaign for you. Did you do anything like that, or you did most of the work yourself?
So I did as much free research, which I recommend to anyone listening. Do as much as you can on your own. And Kickstarter has evolved over the years. So I've gone back to reading articles from 6, 7 years ago. And I know that it's evolved into different trigger points that Kickstarter, like for example, once you get fully funded, then Kickstarter will organically push it up the visibility a lot higher, versus it's kind of like you're pushing the boulder up the hill to get to that campaign goal. And once you do, then Kickstarter kind of helps out, because you also pay a little bit of a portion to Kickstarter. You pay them 5% of reaching that goal. So that's how they're paid for through that. And then you also have to have a little bit. So because of rollers, I felt like I had a fairly good demographics for Tally Tumbler. So I have a large newsletter distribution. I've got about 70,000 emails. So I was able to kind of get a head start by sharing the Tumbler with all of my rollers audience that have purchased in the past, which helped out quite a bit.
Wow, that's awesome. So now that you've been fully funded with Kickstarter, you'll be able to use that money for product development and manufacturing.
Yeah, definitely. So what's different about rollers is it's a wood outdoor game. So it's all handcrafted. It's lacquered, it's silk screened, everything like that. It's basically, a lot is done with hand manufacturing. With the tumbler, with the Tally Tumbler, is molds are needed to create it. And so that is something, it's a new journey for me to learn. And so we've created, we're on to our 4th prototype, just to make sure, because we want to make sure we have a solid quality looking product out there. And so that evolution of R&D has been going on for the past year. We've been working on this because I don't want to get a product out on the market that is just not a quality product. And here's what's kind of changing in the online and e-commerce business as we're pivoting that direction. More and more people are relying on purchasing things online is online reviews. So if I got a product that was just kind of, just okay, just average, I'm going to get a bunch of just average reviews or okay reviews, or potentially poor reviews, and that's going to really set you up for failure. So I feel like, at least in my opinion, coming out the gates, I want to make sure that I'm coming out strong and ahead of it, and people are, I almost over give them what they were expecting, and so that's kind of what my hope is with this product.
Yeah, I've definitely got some experience with making molds over in China, and like with my experience, I'm like, oh, love to have this made in the U.S. And I tried everything possible to make it in the U.S. And most manufacturing companies in the U.S. wouldn't even talk to me. They wouldn't even return my call. I mean, if you're not one of the big guys, they don't even want to mess with you. And their cost of entry is, to make a mold with a U.S. manufacturer was like $30,000 or $40,000, and it was only good for so many runs. Then you had to go buy the $75,000 special mold, and then in China I could get one for $2,000 or $3,000. It's like just good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, how do you do? You just can't compete with that.
No, we're on the same page. That's exactly the research that I've done as well. I mean, I would love to have it manufactured in the US. I may try and pivot into the future, if I can do that, by having a mold maybe manufactured there and see if I can bring those back to the US. But that's what the journey is with the product development is, I was working with, and I'm working with a company that I have trust in, that I've worked with in the past. And so there's a lot of that into the relationship as well, because I think it's very risky to go overseas and you're exchanging money and sending product, and you have to have contracts in place too. So for example, I've got a mold contract in place. I also have a performance contract in place. I have minimum order quantities in place, an operating agreement in place. So, I mean, any of your listeners, I'm more than welcome to ever reach out to me. I mean, Joe and I are always here to help guide you in the right direction if you ever run into that. What are those contracts you're talking about, Matt? I mean, but I learned that over time, that these are things I want to have in place. Here's another one: a non-compete. I want to make sure that they don't sell or use my molds to give to somebody else the same product. And also a non-disclosure agreement. Those are very, very common, and probably the first thing you want to have anybody sign before even talking to them about your idea.
Yeah. And possibly if it's being made in China, you might want to look at getting the trademark or patent, the Chinese trademark or patent also, or at least be in the process of that.
Yes.
Or somebody that's running into that issue. um, so, uh, so how far along are you in the development process with your Tally Tumbler? Like when do you hope to see it on the market?
So we've got four prototypes that are made. First one we had was called a rapid prototype. And so basically that's where you're seeing those rapid prototype machines where it's basically pasting everything together and making things. You see the machines that are doing that. You basically give it a CAD. So it's a software of image of it, and then it prints it out. So it's like a 3D printer for the most part.
Mhm.
That was the first one, just to make sure, do we have the right sizing? Do we have the right amount of, we're starting with a 30-ounce tumbler. And so make sure, do we have the right quantity of liquid in there?
And the rapid prototype's usually like limited in, like it may not look that great or limited in functionality kind of stuff with it. Is that right? Or
Exactly. And do me a favor, and I know you'll have a link in there, but when you go to the Tumblr page, what I did is I created a journey that starts off like the very first prototype. It's all clear plastic. You're just like, you look at it and you go, what is that? That's just the concept. And then you move down to the next one, and now you've got color. And that one's called a CNC prototype. That's where they take a big piece of plastic and then they like saw it down and into what the product's going to look like. So that one that you're going to see on the video, it still is not the stainless steel tumbler itself. That's actually plastic, that's silver. So it looks like it represents it, but that's still part of the prototype phasing. Now the next phase is we're getting the molds actually created. And then that's when we're going to start, getting the retail ready product developed. And so once the molds are created, and that's a very risky process because I wanted to make sure that the manufacturer of that mold knew 100% that things were correct, because there's not a whole lot of room of adjustments, very small tweaks you can do. So that's where I've got a lot of money invested into it, and I want to make sure that it comes back correctly. Last thing you want to do is create another mold. You can imagine how expensive that would be.
Yep.
And so our goal right now, this is the funding is giving money for the molds, giving funding towards shipping and minimum order quantity. Anyone that backs the project right now is guaranteed to get a product. We're committed to everybody, and they're getting it at a 25% off the retail price right now. So you're getting it at a discount right now, but our plan is to get you the product by Memorial Day. That's when we plan to get it out there. So it's actually, we don't have any created right now. I should get the first prototype with the stainless steel mold probably in the next month.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Wow. It's got to be exciting. When you talk about making a rapid prototype and basic mold and gradually, like as you showed it to certain people, I've run into this with some of my own products. You like show them something and they focus on the fact that it's clear.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, look at the functionality. It keeps your score. And isn't it funny dealing with people like you run into that? Like, I almost don't want to tell anybody what my idea is because I don't want to have to listen to them criticize it because they just don't get it.
They get focused on the visual of it and they just go, aren't you going to have different colors on this? You're like, yeah, that's not the goal of it. The goal is to make sure the functionality of the rings twist around and, the lid connects properly and we have the right diameter. Yeah. I mean, if it was you and I talking and you said, well, this is my CNC prototype, I'm going to go, okay, I know where we're at here. Well, this is a rapid prototype. Okay. I know where we're at here.
Yeah, it's interesting when you discuss ideas with certain people. They just it just doesn't. So you got to be careful who you not just like share your ideas with because they might steal them or something, but you got to be careful who you trust. Like your uncle that's never invented anything in his life and has no concept of what it's like to invent something might not be the best guy to mention it to. I was just curious if you run into that kind of stuff because sometimes it's you can easily get discouraged by sharing your idea with the wrong person, and sometimes even the people closest to you might not be the ones you want to be talking to.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, even to the point where somebody might be familiar with retail, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not familiar with the manufacturing aspect of retail. Maybe they owned a retail store and they purchased from other wholesalers to get the product in, but they don't actually know the manufacturing that goes behind everything. And so when I go into a store and a retailer and I see something on the shelves, I look at it from a completely different mindset. I'm looking at the packaging. I'm looking at where it's manufactured. I'm looking at, all the different types of plastics that are into it and different things, cost-cutting measures they have in there. I think once you get things manufactured, you just look at things at a different light. And at the same point, I look at things, I know how much something is to get made, how much they're wholesaling it, and how much they're retailing for. And so when I know all of these different amounts here, I just go, oh, why am I paying this amount? Because I know how much it's to get manufactured, but that's part of the game. Everybody's trying to make a little bit of money along the way.
Yeah, it definitely makes you look at things differently when you're in the stores and stuff like that. So anyways, so how do we find Matt Butler, and how do we find Rollers and Tally Tumbler?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So Rollers is a registered trademark. So it's spelled a little differently than how you might have it in your mind. So it's spelled ROLLORS.com. You can find me. You can reach out to me if you need to on there. You can find Rollers on Amazon, Wayfair, Etsy, Target. I could go on and on. Dick's Sporting Goods, Shields,
Awesome.
Camping World, REI. Okay, but Tally Tumbler, you can find that on tallytumbler.com as well. We currently have a Kickstarter. So if you typed in Tally Tumbler on a search engine, I'm sure that Kickstarter page would come up. And that's the page you want to go to if you want to get it at that 25% discount. We've got about 8 more days of the campaign, and then we'll be bringing inventory to the US, and then you'll probably find it uploaded on all those previous locations I just talked about, like Amazon, Wayfair, and such.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Can't wait to see it out there and see how good the Tally Tumbler does. Last word, if you're talking to somebody from the military community out there and they've got a product idea, they're looking to take it to market, what kind of ideas come to mind? What kind of advice would you have for them?
I would say go to market with your minimal viable product. Just really don't take too long, waiting to make sure that you've got every aspect of the business perfect. Even rollers I've had on the market, like I said, for 7 years, there are little things that evolve, packaging, zippers, things like that, but get the product out there and just get going with it. Find a good mentor out there.
Awesome. Great advice. All right, Matt, good talking with you again. And like I said, man, I can't wait to see the Tally Tumbler when it comes out. I'm going to be ordering several of them off your Kickstarter campaign here pretty soon for all our friends. All right, take care.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
You bet. These two veterans are Oscar Mike.